Welcome back, everyone. This is Janice Wright from the Garrison Public Affairs Office, and we're talking about Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Just a disclaimer, we want to let everybody know that we're talking about a very sensitive subject, specifically someone's personal story, so we want our listeners to be aware. If you need to skip this episode, it's perfectly fine. We'll see you back next week. All that and more as we get into this week's great big podcast.
Hey everybody, this is Samantha Harms with the Garrison Public Affairs Office, and today we are doing what I already know is going to be a really impactful interview. It is October, so that means it's National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So what better person than to bring on Miss Rhonda? Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Rhonda Shabazz, and I am the Army Community Service Family Advocacy Program Victim Advocate Program Manager.
So many words.
I know.
Offices within offices, and then a manager of the office.
As known as FAP. Everybody refers to us as FAP. So
Yes, FAP. I love it. Okay, well, thank you for being on the show with us today. We are here to talk about kind of what domestic violence and domestic abuse is with some statistics, and then get into some resources that people have here on the installation and maybe nationally as well, any phone numbers and stuff like that. So let's start off, just define for us what domestic violence and domestic abuse is.
So we like to kind of course, we didn't coin the phrase.
Right.
We use it across different installations, and it kind of is a play on ESPN.
Ooh, okay.
For people to remember, kind of the 4 types of abuse.
Okay.
So emotional, sexual, physical, and neglect.
Ooh,
So-
nice. I like that.
And we do that because we have a pretty dominant male population. And so pretty much everybody watches ESPN. So
Yeah.
we tell them, here's another acronym for you. This is how you can remember the 4 types. So,
Nice.
and we really define domestic violence as a pattern of behavior where in any relationship, it doesn't have to just be husband and wife. It could be intimate partners. So it is a pattern of behavior in any relationship that is used to gain or maintain power and control over another person. And that includes all 4 of those types of abuse.
Okay. So for people, let's talk about if somebody is in a relationship that is experiencing that, what are some of the things that it could look like? We've got the ESPN. So let's kind of dig into each of maybe those letters just to say, like, okay, emotional. What would that look like for somebody?
So, and I want to be very cautious about saying these things because even with me and my own spouse, there have been arguments where we have said things that we regret later. And there is a difference between people who love each other and genuinely concerned for each other, and they happen to get into a heated discussion.
Right.
And it could be about a variety of different things, and you say something and you really didn't mean it.
Yeah.
But you come back and you apologize, and it doesn't happen often or never again, depending on the severity of that.
Okay.
When you're in a relationship where someone is trying to maintain a power and control over you, it is a consistent thing. So it's not a one time, this person did it to me like 6 years ago, and we never had another issue until maybe now. I always say, look at the consistency of how many times these things are happening. So it could be them embarrassing you, making fun of you in front of other people. It could be financial piece of it where they are not allowing you to see where the monies are going, that you always have to ask them for money to do anything to get your own personal necessities in life. It can be withholding information on, especially with military, withholding an ID card.
Oh, yeah.
or not even getting you an ID card.
Yeah.
It could be the threat of immigration. I'm not going to do this if this. So it's all of those. It's a variety of different things. Of course, physical force is a key indicator of that, but oftentimes it is really about the emotional side of things that really put people in the situation where they're staying even longer, because it's hard to see the emotional side of it. Yeah. And it's hard for other people to see that. It is the hardest thing to prove, the emotional side of it. And a lot of people, nobody's taking emotional abuse to court.
Yeah.
Like that's just hardly not a thing.
Yeah.
Here on the installation, we do have what we call the Incident Determination Committee, which is IDC, that for every incident of domestic violence, and that is all 4 categories. If it happens and it's reported, then that incident goes to the committee. That committee is chaired by either the garrison commander or the deputy to the garrison commander. So just depending on how they have divvied up their responsibilities there. Here, it is our garrison commander and our deputy garrison commander who chairs that board. The panel consists of them. It consists of a doctor. It consists of someone from the military police, DS. It consists of FAP representatives, both on our clinical side as well as our Army Community Services side. It consists of JAG. So someone from legal.
Okay.
And so the case is presented, and everyone kind of determines if it meets the criteria based on what we call our decision tree algorithm. And so there are some key points. Was there an act? And then we kind of go down the chain with that. And so that's how we do that. So we do take all of it into consideration for the installation. And we look at this, it's not a punitive thing. It is more of a, how can we get this person treatment for them to become better people? How can we assist the families in getting their treatment, whether it is leaving the relationship or getting assistance with any type of mental health or clinical counseling that they might need.
Okay. So we kind of talked a little bit now about you brought up already kind of what happens when it is reported. So let's talk about the full picture. So if somebody on the installation is saying, I am in a situation that I am experiencing some type of domestic violence, what do they need to do?
So the first thing that I would say for everyone who may consider themselves in that situation is that they would call our victim services line. It's a 24/7 line. The number is 254-702-4953. And you can just speak with a victim advocate without worrying about who else is going to find out about it. Do I have to call command? You can get some information from them without having to officially make a report unless you're ready, because we're able to keep our reports restricted.
Okay.
And so, it gets a little complicated, of course, if there are children involved, but there are still ways by which we can report the child abuse portion of it without having the victim to have to tell their story of it.
Okay.
And so, and again, that's something that we have to kind of look at. We have to assess the situation to see the danger that someone may be in, the lethality of where their situation is, and kind of go from there. But the best thing to do is to call the 24/7 victim services line. Some folks may refer to it as the crisis line, but it is the same number nevertheless.
Okay.
It is 254-702-4953.
Okay. So you mentioned a little bit about the lethality of a situation. I know that there are some statistics out there about how when people try to leave, how often people are killed. Do you want to tell us a little bit of some statistics that people should just kind of be aware of when it comes to domestic violence?
So, the statistics are there. We know that 85%, for the most part, of victims are women. We know that the age category where you're at the greatest risk is that 18 to 24. We also know that between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. is where things happen. For the most part, if we look at our blotter report or you look at the police reports, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. is kind of where things happen. And so, instead of us throwing out, the bigger statistics of, 20 people per minute are being physically abused, we know that is 10 million people a year. Some folks may look at it a little bit higher than that. It's usually between 10 and 12 million a year. But either way, it's a huge number. I would encourage everyone to start thinking about what can I do to mitigate those statistics. When we're talking to commands and leaders, if we know that between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. is where it's going down, we should think about what the last hour of the day looks like for people getting off work.
Okay.
That's across the world to me. Like, I'm stressed out from my job and then I have to go home and I have to deal with something else. And sometimes, even in our normal day, it doesn't even have to be domestic violence. Even in our normal day of working, when we're stressed out, we tend to fight a little bit more with our spouses. We tend to be aggravated more with our children when we leave work, if we are at that stressful point. And when people have kind of taken us over the edge at that point, someone else gets it, whether it's us driving out of the gates and, you're frustrated from the day and someone cuts you off and it's a quick honk on the horn, when maybe you normally wouldn't even do that. It's the same thing with domestic violence. If we're looking at that time frame, we should start focusing on, what do we do at the end of the day? What can we do at the end of the day? Look at what we're doing now, but what can we do at the end of the day that will relieve some stress?
Do you have any suggestions?
It's only a short time. The thing is, stop with last minute things. Plan. Your lack of planning is a potential for someone else to be abused. So a good plan so that there is nothing last minute. We get it that every now and then there's something. Proclamation is happening. We've got to work to the end of the day to get some of these things done. So we know that it happens, but if it's happening often, then it becomes a norm. And that's not what anyone wants. The end of the day should be kind of like the most relaxed portion of the day.
You're done with work for the day. You get to just go home after this and eat dinner and just chill. Yes.
So offer something for, whether it's a class at the end of the day, maybe once a week, once a month. It doesn't matter. If you start it doesn't matter if you give someone once a month. If you start something, at least it's something. To be able to give people stress techniques throughout, the month so that they can understand how to reduce risk. Teaching people, how to take time outs and what time out looks like for each individual couple. My time out for my spouse, he's a gym rat. He's going to go to the gym. If he's angry about anything, 2:00 in the morning, he's going to the gym. And I'm perfectly okay with that. But it may not look the same for someone who has dealt with infidelity in their marriage, right? Or in their relationship. You may not be able to dot that door at 2:00 in the morning without a fight. So it really just depends. But just to let people know, you have to have that. And it has to be something that you and your spouse agree upon. It's not just how you feel, like this is what makes me feel good.
Right.
No, because you have a partner. And so we're looking at each other to kind of help with that.
Yeah. For people who are just getting into relationships, do you want to talk a little bit about things that they should maybe be paying attention to, or how to have conversations like that, how to set up those, healthy boundaries?
So here's what we're doing for the month of October.
Ooh, I love it.
So we're doing on pretty much every Monday. So it starts, of course, the 9th is a holiday. And so
Right.
we're starting on the 16th. We have the 23rd and we have the 30th. And then, of course, we have some other days in between there. But
Okay.
we've got some special classes that we're doing just so that people can get out and kind of get some 30-minute quick sessions and
Okay.
not have to sit in class forever. So we have classes to, one of them is How Did I Get Here? It's a look at drugs and alcohol in relationships.
Oh, okay.
So that would be one. Another one is, let me see here. It's called TRAP. Trust, Respect, Accountability, Perspective.
Ooh, we
So-
love the acronyms here.
Yes, I know.
I'm here for it.
and it's really geared towards single soldiers, and really anyone can come to the classes, but we do have some of them that are geared specifically for single soldiers so that they can kind of get that. We have one called Likes and Loves, and it's all about social media and relationships.
Oh, yes. Tricky social media.
Tricky social media. So we have 7 principles of making a marriage work at the end of the month. So
Okay.
it's for couples.
Okay.
And so we talk to them about different avenues and how they can kind of maneuver their relationship. We have our Expect Respect classes that we have every month. So our ACS FAP has a ton of classes that we already offer.
Oh, okay.
Every month for service members. One of them is prepping for marriage. So you get your certificate from there. You get all of the curriculum. In addition to, you get a percentage off of your marriage license.
Oh.
So I think the marriage license are
Handy.
like $60, maybe
Yeah.
$80. And so you do get a big percentage off from that. You can also take that class to get your certificate without having to wait the period that you have to wait in order to get married.
Oh.
So
okay.
you can,
Okay.
for those
Somebody who's
soldiers
just really excited and really just wants to be
someone who
married.
is really excited.
Yeah.
Maybe they're deploying and they want to do it before they deploy,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
So we have that. Let me look at the calendar here. We do have all of this posted on our MWR website.
Okay.
And so we have a QR code that they can go to, and it kind of brings down the calendar and gives them a list of all of that. We've got classes, Got Your Back. And again, it's just all things relationship. We've got Stop Right There. This is all about boundaries.
Ooh, yeah.
We talk in these classes about sexual assault within a marriage. A lot of times people hear sexual assault and they think that is only for friends,
Right.
and that
Strangers.
strangers.
Yeah.
But nope, we have sexual assault happening in marriage as well, and that falls under domestic violence and not our SHARP program.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's great. Well, I'm thrilled to hear about all these resources. So we are quickly approaching our time.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you feel like people really need to know about? Things to either look out for, things that they can do if people are in that situation that they know of, or just resources that they have here on this installation?
So I guess the first thing that I would say is no one, and I repeat, no one deserves to be abused.
Yeah.
No matter what you think about yourself, no matter where you are in life, and no matter what you did, how bad it was, no one deserves to be abused. I would encourage anyone to reach out to our Victim Services line. Again, that number is 254-702-4953. We can assist with even just helping you make a decision. Maybe it's just getting you to safety. Maybe it's just giving you food vouchers because you're not ready yet. Even if you're not ready yet, we just want to make sure that you know what the resources out there. And then once you are ready to make that report and you've made a decision that you're leaving the relationship, you just need to know that that is the most crucial and the most vulnerable time for a victim. And it is the highest point of lethality when we think about that, as to when someone is prepared to leave.
Yeah.
That is when someone else knows that they now do not have that power and control over them. And so they lose their minds, literally. And so to ensure your safety, just get a safety plan. If nothing else, talk with someone about a safety plan. And that would include, different things like, where do you keep a spare key?
Yeah.
Don't go inside of a bathroom. Like, keep yourself open to where you can, escape if you needed to escape. Don't try to save your children at that time. You have to save yourself first. You have to be able to get out to get help, to think about your children. And just, again, I can't emphasize enough, just reach out. And for the people who are not experiencing it, think about other people. What can you do to assist them? Whether it's going to the local shelter with families in crisis, donating things for those victims who are going there, donating things for the children who are there at the shelter. We do partner with families in crisis and have a memorandum of agreement with them where we do send our victims there as well.
Okay.
And so that's things that you can do to help. Believe a victim. If they say that they were abused, believe them. Do what you can to assist. It's really not our decision to decide if something is true or false, but more so, how can we be there to assist them and let them know that we are there for them, regardless of their decision. Even if they decide to go back, always be there for them. You don't have to participate, but you can let them know, I will always be here for you.
Yeah, that's really powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything else?
Well, for commanders, leaders on the installation to report domestic violence, we say call our 287 care line.
Okay.
And remember, just because there are no physical scars does not mean that there is not domestic violence. Physical scars are things that will come and go. The emotional side of things kind of lasts forever.
Yeah.
This is where people suffer from PTSD and things of that nature. So a lot of times when there is no scar, people are saying, oh, there was not domestic violence. It was just this.
Yeah.
It's not just that. It's a big deal. We, as victims would say the scars will go and come and I won't remember them.
Yeah.
But the emotional side of things, I will always remember.
Yeah. Well, I want to say thank you so much for coming on with us today.
Thank you for having me.
After this, we're going to have a quick little break, and then we actually have Mayor Debbie Nash-King coming on, City of Killeen Mayor. She's here to talk about her personal experience.
Awesome.
So, thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you.
Listen closely.
Hey, specialist, looking sharp in those OCPs.
Get a little closer, Private. I don't bite.
Now what do you hear?
Hey, specialist, looking sharp in those OCPs.
Get a little closer, Private. I don't bite.
Know the difference between casual comments and sexual harassment. Unwanted sexual advances are never tolerated. If you see it or experience it on or off post, it's up to you to take action. This is our Army.
So, Sam, now that we've defined what domestic abuse is, along with highlighting some of the resources available in the installation for those in domestic violence situations, we can, elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I think everything that Rhonda highlighted for us already and kind of walked us through is some really powerful information. But of course, there's nothing as empowering and as powerful as hearing from somebody who actually has lived through that situation.
I agree. And on that note, let's introduce our esteemed guest, Mayor Debbie Nash-King, the City of Killeen Mayor. Thanks for being on with us today.
Thank you both for having me, and hello, Fort Cavazos.
Okay, so the last time you were on the podcast, both during and after, you talked a little bit about the fact that you have your own experience and your own journey with domestic abuse and domestic violence, and in the essence of it being October and National Domestic Violence Awareness Month, we thought this would be a perfect time for you to come back and kind of talk with us and share your experience.
Yes, thank you.
So can you tell us a little bit about your experience and walk us through, how you overcame that obstacle?
Okay, and domestic violence situations is something that I personally would not want anyone to have to go through, because you don't really see it until you in it. Because when you are in relationships, you're in love. You have so many emotions and feelings going through you. You miss the little small things like talking down to you or yelling and screaming, and you're just thinking like, oh, it's not that big a deal, because in the back of your mind, you think it's you that caused the problem.
Yeah.
And so you just continue to move through the relationship. But what I've learned is that after the effect of going through side effect of domestic violence and going through counseling is that the signs are always there.
Yeah.
We tend to overlook those because we want to see the best in a person.
Yes, and in counseling I realized how to recognize it. So I was young and in college, and I got pregnant being in a relationship, and my family was saying you have to get married, and I've known this my ex-husband all my childhood life, so it was not like he was a stranger.
Right.
But what had happened, I realized when I was in school, he had gone off into the military and was still in the military. And a lot of things had transpired that I realized while he was serving in the military when we were in counseling. So when he came back being in this relationship, long distance, I don't know if it works or not, but hey, who am I to judge? And ended up getting married. And I had never been away from home.
Oh, wow.
So I just got married. He was in the military. We went to move a long way from home. I don't want to say the military installation because I don't want it to be a stigma on that particular place. And everything was great when I got in the car. But we got in a discussion, and we was a long way from my home, and he got mad and told me to get out and take your baby with you.
Wow.
So he put me out on the highway, me and my child in a little stroller carrier, and I just stood there. I had no phone.
I can't imagine
any income, and I was just walking, and cars stopped, and he just went up there and came back around and yelled and said, "Get your so-and-so in the car." And I got in the car just tears because I was in complete shock.
I bet.
Sign number one.
Yeah.
But I'm in love with a child.
Yeah.
My parents didn't want me to be, much older generation. First of all, it's a sin to have a child out of wedlock, but you're going to correct this and get married.
Yeah. So you felt obligated to stick it out and try and make it work.
Right. And after I had gotten married, it's not funny. God rest my grandmother's soul. She told me while I was saying my vows, she saw smoke going around my dress.
Oh, no.
So that was a sign.
That was the spiritual sign. Like, girl, you on fire now. So, oh, Lord. And then when I got there, met the unit, tried to meet my neighbors. It was just by the grace of God. It was a first sergeant that lived by us. And so I couldn't work. And then when I finally went to the school to register for college, I was talking to people trying to find the registration office and everything. And what I didn't know is that he never left. So while I was walking and talking to people, because it's a new university, I didn't know anyone.
Right. Absolutely.
All of a sudden, he came behind me and jerked my arm and said, "Get in the car."
Oh, my gosh.
So I didn't register for school. Sign number 2.
Yeah.
So that was the actual first time he physically assaulted
grabbed
you.
me in front of everybody. It was the most embarrassing thing.
Yeah.
But previous to that, there was verbal abuse?
That one incident, incident when he put me out the car.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of this because I would never got married.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't play that, and I tell anyone now that I know better, what you may consider as a joke, what they're saying and their action, that's a part of their makeup and who they are.
I agree. And I know for
playing it down.
Yeah, it does start with things that they say, behaviors. It doesn't necessarily start with physical assaults. It starts with those other things.
And because you laugh at it and you play it off, then they just continue and it escalate. So when I got back to the house, he was just saying, you were in a man's face and this and that and this and I don't even know where that came from. I'm just asking a question. But when I was in counseling with him, is that he had been married before. You need to know their history.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You need to know their relationships. You need to know their financial status. All these things you need to know because his first wife messed up on him. She took half of what he had. And I realized in counseling, I was just a financial ticket.
Yeah.
So I don't really think he got over the trauma of the first marriage. Even though when we were young, he used to run around after me. I'm going to marry you, but I wasn't focused on that.
Right.
I was just focused on, hey, I grew up in poverty. I want to get out. I want to make something with my life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That was my focus. And then he said, well, you're not going to school. Then you're going to work. And I said, well, I want to finish college. And he was saying, well, not right now. We got to pay bills. And I'm like, what bills? I haven't made any bills. This is what I'm thinking in my mind, but I'm afraid because what I noticed, he had silenced my voice without me knowing it. Because I realized if I spoke up, 2 incidents.
Yeah.
So I called my mom and I was telling her about what had happened. I said, I won't be going to school. And she was like, why? That was one of the promises you made. I said, well, right now I have to work because of financial. She said, what? Same question. What financial?
Yeah.
And I was too ashamed to tell her what had happened because she said, I work with his dad. His dad was her supervisor.
Okay.
And we've been knowing them and don't let the church down because my family, I grew up on faith-based.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
God is everything.
Yeah.
And you grew up with what happens in the home stays in the home.
Right. And that you need Jesus if you don't get married.
Absolutely.
So I just accepted that, I'm married. I really didn't want to be married, but got pregnant, and I felt like I'm paying for my daughter is not a mistake.
Yeah.
I'm paying for the action I took prior to being married. I should have waited. And just naive on a lot of things. And so that was the second incident. And so he said, well, you got to get a job. So I said, oh, my goodness. So I got a job. And I was working. But before I had gotten the job, I really realized financially because I met a lady at the store and he took me around and I met people, but she was like 2 blocks from me.
Oh.
And I met her and I walked over there and we were just talking. And he was okay with it because she was married.
Right.
But the problem was that when he would get angry at me, he wouldn't put any food in the house. And I was hungry.
I bet, yeah.
And so she would call me and ask me, could I babysit? And I would go over there just so I could eat.
Oh, wow.
It was, I'm sorry.
Take your time.
And I know it's just talking
your
about
time.
it. You try to put it behind you, but it's some things just trigger
Absolutely.
to make you realize the suffering you went through.
Yeah.
And how
Absolutely.
long you went through it. And
You were dealing with a lot.
it was a lot. And so I would go to her house to eat, and she knew it was something that was wrong. And so I had gotten a job, and I was working at like the PX commissary
Right.
place. It was like a shopette, and
Okay.
so I was working there, and he would just pop up. out of nowhere. And my boss kept on saying, hey, this is a problem. Your husband just staying in here and stuff. He's not buying anything. And she said, is there a problem? And you become embarrassed.
Yeah. Yeah, you do.
And I said, no, I got to work because my daughter was in childcare. And I realized when I thought about it, when she was talking to me, she said, do he give you any income? And I thought about it, and I was like, no.
Yeah.
She said, how do you buy your clothes and stuff? He was not doing anything for me.
Because he expected you to do it and carry the household on your back.
Right. And so when I got paid, I had to put the money in the account, but I didn't have access to the account.
Yeah.
And I would tell her, and she said, well, you know, we got to put it in the account. You need to do something. But I was too afraid to do it.
Yeah.
And so one night I had gotten really sick, and I was driving to the hospital because I couldn't find him.
Wow.
And when I was driving, I had an accident that I lost conscious, and I had to have surgery.
Wow.
And I remember being in the ER, and he had grabbed my hand, and he was squeezing and say, you are so-and-so mistake. I should have never married you. Wow. I remember that. That right there is when I should have never left the hospital.
Yeah.
I should have went on and told him. But I was afraid. And so one night when I got home, I called my mom because I had to have emergency surgery. And my mom was there. He was so nice, and I was begging her not to go. And she was asking me, why? I said, I just want you to stay. And then she knew it was something was wrong, but I wouldn't speak up.
Yeah.
And the minute she left, and I had just had surgery. She left about 2 weeks later, and I was going upstairs. And when I walked, my back was toward him. He came behind me and grabbed my hair, balled it up in his fist, and pushed my head against the wall.
Wow.
Because he had told my mom something, but I hadn't.
Yeah.
I hadn't told her anything. And one thing I will tell you about domestic violence, it affects all of your relationships.
Absolutely.
And I had the next day, he was just screaming and yelling because he wanted me to tell him what had happened. I didn't tell my mom anything.
Yeah.
And I knew it was a breaking point when, after a week later, he was downstairs, and I went and told him, I said, hey, I haven't eaten in 3 days, and we were screaming. And the first sergeant next door heard us screaming, and he was hitting me, and I was screaming, I want to go home, I want to go home. And he came and knocked on the door. He said, soldier, you need to send her home. And you can't beat on her. And so when I went upstairs, and I was just packing my stuff, and I called and told my folks everything, what had happened. And my mom and them said, well, we headed towards you to get you. And she was asking me why I hadn't told her prior, and I was afraid to tell her. And then the first sergeant said, y'all need to go to counseling, but I wasn't going to counseling. But he said, y'all need to. And so, thank you. And so what had happened was that my mom and them had made it there, but before they got there that night, I came downstairs to get some water, and he tried to choke me, and he said, I need you to go cook me something. And I had just bruises all over. And he came out to Elizabeth, and she was a baby. So I got in front of him to protect him because that was my weakness.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
think that's with a lot of rubber. It's a male being abused or a woman. Your children become your weakness.
Yeah.
And when I turned to protect her, he had something, and he had just hit me on my back, and that was it for me. Since I was cooking, I just went and got the grease, and I threw it at him.
Oh, wow.
The crazy thing, the first sergeant came, and he was trying to get me out. He could call the MPs on me, and they want to arrest me.
Oh, my goodness.
But they couldn't see all the bruises.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm telling you. I can understand, but it's not justified.
Yeah.
When you push a person to the point that bad things happen, and I would advise anybody get out before it get to that point, because there's so many people, and I can relate to them that went through abuse that's in jail or dead.
It's like you
Because you're
said,
tired.
Yeah.
it affects every relationship that you're in. You have the fear, you have the guilt, you're being manipulated. All of those things play a factor. But then you have an escalation such as your situation that pushes things maybe in the wrong direction. You should never have been persecuted for defending yourself.
Right. And so the first sergeant, that's why I said I thank God for him. He was telling them everything that had happened prior to that. Because his wife would tell him, hey, he on her again. And she would come over there and she say something. Just say something. And I thank God for the system where the government has intervened in saying that you're accountable leaders for your soldiers.
Absolutely.
Because I think back on it, and if someone else would have said something and got involved, because I didn't know anything. I was in my 20s. I just didn't know. I think it could have been prevented, but I do believe that everything happened for a reason. And then when I got in counseling, because you have very low self-esteem,
Yeah.
I had lost so much weight, and you just buy into what they say to you.
Absolutely.
And I honestly think when I came out of counseling, and it was not easy because you got to go through it.
You do.
And it still today has an effect on me of what I endured, but it made me who I am. And people say, you're so hard, I just don't take anything.
You're
Yeah.
right. It shaped you.
If you have not gone through what I've gone through, you could say the slightest thing to me, it's going to trigger, oh, they trying to talk down to you, because it's not going to happen.
Absolutely.
And they may not even mean that, but it has everything to do with what I went through
Absolutely.
to make me just a no-nonsense person. Now, I would love you, I would fight for you, but I would not put up with it.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate because even with my daughter, in her relationships, and we talk about it today, like I'm probably not married because you were so strict and you criticize everybody I dated if they say this, if they late to pick me up, but it's because of what I went through.
You can see those signs. You can see those red flags and those triggers because you lived through it. She can't see it because she has not experienced it.
Right. And so I'll just tell anyone the best thing you can do once you recognize it, and it's hard. I'm not going to tell anyone that it's easy because you love that person. You have children with that person. You don't have an income. You do not have anywhere to go. And sometimes I went home. My parents was there the next day, that morning. And it was like a 14-hour drive.
Wow.
And some victims don't have family,
Right.
to lean on
they
for
don't
support.
have those resources.
Absolutely.
And when I came back, it was rough because I was on welfare food stamps. He wouldn't give me any money. And one of the neighbors told us that my grandmother neighbor said that, he's supposed to be giving you money. You're not divorced yet.
Absolutely. He should.
Didn't know any of that. And I tell spouses that learn your rights as a spouse married to a military soldier.
I
Whether you're a
agree.
male or a female, learn your rights. You have to build relationships with your friends and your neighbors that's next to you. You have to have a sounding board because I was sitting in that house all by myself. And I remember this one incident, and it just came to me. I was cooking for him because he was coming to lunch. And he told me I had to run out to get my license or something. And you had to be back within 30, 40 minutes, something, because it wasn't far. And I left the pot on. And when I came in, it was smoke, because that's how nervous I was for him.
Wow.
And the neighbor came and said, oh, I smell that smoke. She said, you better open up all those doors and everything, because when he come in, he going to beat you.
Wow.
But they could hear it.
Yeah.
But no one would do anything.
Wow.
And I was so afraid. So the pot that was burned, she came in and fanned it, and she took the pot out the kitchen. She said, I'm going to put it in my garbage can because my husband said he be going through the trash
my goodness.
when he leave.
Wow.
But they knew it,
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
and no one said anything. And I just look back, and I'm grateful. I forgive him. I see him, but I can't have a relationship with him because like I say, Liz is grown. That's your relationship. I don't have to be a part of it anymore. But I realized today the damage, the trauma I went through. And I think that's why I went into social work. And I think that's why everything I do, I'm really a big advocate for people, especially people that are less fortunate, because I understand the struggle. And even right now in the city, and it has an effect that we're dealing with the unsheltered. You would call them probably the homeless population. Right. And I can understand, because I talk to some of the people all the time when I see them downtown, when I'm just down there. I don't have a particular reason. I'm just there. Or I see them on the side, and I hear their stories. And I thank God for family in crisis, for domestic violence. It's real. And it's not only women, it's men. And I don't think people realize that. They ask the question, why don't you leave? Why don't you leave? Why are you still there? It's psychological.
Absolutely.
It is.
Because when someone has talked down to you and beat you, and you got to ask permission, all that walking on eggshells, that's real.
Yeah, it's kind of like he's slowly but surely trying to kill your spirit.
It's gone.
The thing that makes you alive, the thing that makes you the person that you are. He's kind of stifled that with all of the things he's done.
Yes, because when I had an accident and fainted, and I kept telling him I was sick for a week, and I didn't realize how much blood I was losing. See, oh my God. The recovery is traumatic when you go through it. And to think that somebody hates you and dislike you so much to beat you.
Yeah.
I didn't even recognize me. When I was in the hospital, I was so undernourished and so small that he was like, what happened to her? Wow. And he didn't say anything.
And this is the person that's supposed to love you and protect you.
It was sad. And I went back and I was talking to a group when I was doing my internship for social work, and I pulled out pictures that it just blew me away. And to really go back from the beginning to the end, just sitting here, I realized I'm in grief counseling because of the loss of my husband. And it was something the counselor said to me. She said, I don't think the reason that you're not getting married is because you're trying to find somebody to replace him because of your trauma that you went through. And she said, I doubt you want to, she said, you holding on to something good that happened to you in a relationship in fear of what is to come.
Right.
Because you have two scenarios.
Yeah.
You got a domestic violence, and you have someone that understood you, that was willing to love and nourish you into healing. And now it's all coming back, because now if you do want a relationship, you got to go through all the checks and balances and check to see if this, and are you willing to do it?
Yeah.
It's worth it.
I don't know if it's worth it. I don't say all that. But I will say that there are some healthy relationships. And what I've learned in counseling, because he came down, and where I live at, they have like an arsenal. And also they have the Air Force Base. Because my parents, and this is the craziest thing, my dad was 1,000 against even trying to reconcile. My grandmother was against it. But my mom was, what about the church?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes parents, they love you, but sometimes for appearance sake.
Yeah.
Right.
And we tell people, work through it. I'm not telling you not to listen to your parents, but you're in a life or death situation.
Absolutely.
You better make a choice.
Yeah. At the end of the day, that is your
Right.
own personal choice, no matter what. Whether or not you want to reconcile, it's up to you, because you're the one who lived through all of that.
Right.
Even if your parents are, oh, you should or you shouldn't, it really comes down to, are you healed enough that you can handle it, and can you move through that?
Right. And do you have the financial means to support And my grandmother told me, come on, live with us.
Yeah.
Me. She didn't have much, but that's where me and my daughter stayed. And when I was talking to his mother and sister, and they was like, yeah, I can believe that. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
His dad, who was an alcoholic, used to tie him to a tree
Oh, wow.
and beat him with a water hose.
Wow.
So a lot of his trauma and everything stemmed from his
Childhood.
childhood.
Yeah.
Wow.
And when I finally met his ex-wife, she told me she went through the same thing.
Wow.
So I cannot say it's the military that made him to act in that manner. I cannot say that. But I do know for a fact his childhood played a big role. After I learned the science, after going through school as a social worker, and even grad school for social work, you see all of that.
Yeah.
So that trauma moves on to the next person, and it's just a generational curse that constantly keep going.
Yeah.
And now his son, he's like that, very aggressive.
Wow. So it's a generational thing. Got to break those generational curses.
It's generational. And it's emotional to me because I do know after reading last night, I was looking at some statistics on domestic violence, and I was talking to a friend that's going through it, and I'm telling her, get out, get out, get out. And she's telling me all of these reasons why she should stay. And I'm saying it's going to escalate, and it's not going to get any better. And I'm saying, if you want to come stay with me, you can. But, oh, he's following me. I'm scared of this. And
Wow.
you see it every day.
Absolutely.
So it's difficult. And she said, well, why did you stay long? I said, they could have known, had gave me an annulment. Because it was not that long, 6 months.
Wow.
But I didn't know any better.
Absolutely.
And if the police hadn't come, and I probably been, because I got a little courage to like, I'm not taking this anymore. You messing with my baby now. You can mess with me. No, I didn't want that. But I wasn't going to let her mess with my child.
Mama Bear comes out.
Oh, I just reacted, and I went in there and just threw it. And I grabbed her, and I went out the door and started beating on the first sergeant them door, like, hey, he's trying to hurt me and my child. And then when he was coming out, his skin was burnt, and he was coming toward me. And the first sergeant jumped in front of me to protect him. Wow. And he had a weapon in his hand. That could have been it for me.
Yeah.
And I think back, and I guess that's why I'm emotional. I'm thinking, what if that door didn't open?
Yeah.
Right.
Would it been the end of me?
You're here now.
Yeah.
And your testimony has been, this has probably been one of the most incredible podcasts I've ever participated in. Like your voice, you went from being voiceless to being the voice of the city of Killeen and of a lot of other women who have gone through this. And for that, I am so thankful for you being on today.
I'm thankful to be alive. I'm thankful to
Also
be here
that too.
Yes.
Also that too.
Yes.
Because look at you now. Look at you now. From where you started to where you are. It's incredible.
Yes, ma'am. But I will, thank you. You're so kind. But I will say in between, there is a process of healing. And it's not an easy process.
Not at all.
Because you take on the whole responsibility of guilt that it was your fault, because that's a recording that they constantly tell you you're stupid, you're dumb, nobody wants you. Once you leave here, who gonna want you? You're nothing. You just constantly hear those things. It will wear you down. So I will advise any man or woman or child that a child can be affected too. Mm-hmm. But Liz was so young, she don't remember it.
Right.
But she paid the price for it as she got older, because I was very overprotective.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I look back over there, and we got a great relationship.
That's good.
And to have to go through, and one of the mistakes I made, and I don't think it's a mistake, I never said anything to her negative about her father. That was one thing.
You have to let her establish her own relationship.
Yeah. Because I've never seen anything like this in my life. I would never thought that I would be born to be beaten, abused, forced to do things I didn't want to do. And the law say you can be assaulted in a relationship. It's true. You can be.
Yeah.
And you married.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's an imprisonment to me. That you don't have transportation and you only can use the car if somebody pick him up, and you have to go exactly where I tell you to go. You don't have an income. You do not have food. You got the clothes you left with.
Absolutely.
And you don't realize that until somebody on the outside say, hey, wake up.
Yeah.
Do you understand what situation you're in? Because you it's just your daily lifestyle.
Yeah.
Like, okay, if I just don't say anything, okay, get up, have everything. Yeah. And then they come home and do what they want to do.
Yeah.
And then they say, no, when we went through divorce court, I didn't get anything. And they tell you were just a meal ticket. And you have to constantly see the abuser because you have a connection.
Yeah.
So do you really heal?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Do you want to talk a little bit about any maybe resources that you used during the healing process that you would recommend for people who are going through the same situation?
I didn't have a support system. And I don't think you need a support system. I think you just need to get out. That's one thing.
Yeah.
And once you get out, you need counseling.
Yeah.
You need to be honest with your parents and family members and tell them the truth. You're a pastor, and that could go either way.
Yeah.
Because some of them say stay in a relationship and fight, and there are those
Which is an absolute shame.
Because we're faith-based.
Yeah.
That you're right.
I grew up pretty much the same way you did.
Yeah. So I really didn't have resources, really, because I didn't know any better. But I would recommend, if you're in that kind of relationship, find out the resources in your area.
Okay.
If you go on the internet or whatever phone, they're going to check all of that stuff, which mine was taken away from me. So I just think that it just depends on the resource.
Yeah.
Because you can go to counseling all you want to go, and I went because they found out the first sergeant told his command team, and we had to go to counseling. He just said, I'm just going because they say I got to be here. He didn't learn anything.
Yeah.
Because it was never escalated because he was mad because he had to go.
Yeah.
If there was one piece of vital information that you had to give to our listeners and those who are going through the situation right now, what would it be?
I will honestly say, if you're going to get married or someone that's going through it, well, if you're going to go get married, I would say this. You need to know who they are.
Absolutely.
You need to make sure that you have financial means, that you go to school or you have a job. Do not ever let anyone take away your way out, and that's financially. Don't let them just, once they go to cursing, fussing, and arguing and all that nonsense to the point they touch you, that is not a safe relationship.
So it's important to know your rights.
You have to know
your
rights.
resources.
You have to go in with resources.
Yeah.
You cannot wait till you get there to get them. That's what I did.
Yeah.
And my grandmother begged me, okay, now you're married, stay here and finish school. And I was not listening because, oh, God, I'm in love. I'm finna travel the world. I traveled right back home.
You traveled, though.
Yeah, right back home.
Yeah.
And for the individuals that are in a relationship, and that's very difficult to say, because whatever comes out of my mouth and they take that to heart and they do it, it could take a life. Because I really don't know their situation. I don't know if they're recording their conversation, they're following them. So if I say right now, get out, and they packing all their belongings, trying to get out with their child, and they don't have a place to go. I mean, our resource here, Family in Crisis, they don't have enough room for everybody.
Yeah.
I don't know. I would say get counseling.
It's a hard situation.
It's very difficult right now in these days and time, because if you read, especially some incidents that happened in Killeen where it was a double suicide, They take the person's life and they take their life. And whatever I say as mayor, people listen. But I will say domestic violence and someone abusing you is not right.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a way to disconnect completely, especially if they're a very violent person, find a resource, because you have to get away from them. You have to be in a place where they cannot find you or they will hurt you. And that has been proven time and time again. Because not only did my mom come, my dad come, my brothers came. So that was a force to reckon with, because they were not going to play. They didn't even act. They just came in the door.
Wow. They were coming to get you.
Right, because I told them, and it was just unacceptable, because they did not know.
Yeah.
And then he called the MPs because he was afraid.
I bet he was.
It's ironic that I've noticed, even as mayor, how males will bully women, but won't confront men. And
That's
they are
part of
bullies.
it.
They are bullies. They can beat on women, cuss them, but when a male confront them, they won't do anything.
Yeah.
So they prey on the weaker vessel.
Absolutely.
We are not weak as a woman. We may be weak in strength, but
That's
not
what it
as
is.
a person. And I learned that in counseling. It's just like finding a new person, a new identity, because they have taken away so much from you that it's incredible hard to not allow that to constantly flash back in your mind, all those negative words, because you went through it. And mine was just 6 months. I can imagine people going through it for 5 years, 10 years. That's all they know.
Yeah.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
So that's my story of how to survive domestic violence. And it's just get out.
We thank you
soon as you
so
see it.
much,
Yeah.
so
Thank
much
you.
for sharing it. On a lighter note, are there any, we got a lot going on in the city of Killeen.
Yes, ma'am.
And for you as the mayor, is there anything that you wanted to highlight?
Yes, ma'am. Our executive director, Janelle Ford, she prepares me quite well to present all of the community events that's going on in the city of Killeen. So we have our Killeen Fire Department open house, which is October the 14th. And we have our Fall Fest, October the 28th. And the city of Killeen, I always like to take care of our little babies. So we have our Halloween city trick-or-treating, and that's from 6 to 8. And the most important thing that she wants me to share is how to stay connected to the city of Killeen. And we want you to sign up for our alerts at KILLEENTEXAS, and that's Killeen, Texas, all lowercase, .gov/notify me, NOTIFYME. So that would be www.killeentexas.gov/notify me.
Okay, so you got it here straight from Mayor Nash-King on how to tap into the Killeen activities and events and
ma'am.
resources.
And on our website, www.killeentexas.gov, we have a lot of resources for family members that are free. And I thank you both for taking the time to recognize the need to talk about domestic violence, and especially during a lot of times when we are caught up in our own personal life, we forget that other people may be struggling in their life. So I truly appreciate for Cavazos and this team for just allowing me to come to share my story. Even though it's emotional and I cry.
That's okay.
It's not that I'm a victim. It's just to remind me I'm a survivor.
Absolutely. And we're so thankful for having you today. We're so thankful for you sharing something that was so personal.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, so one thing that we did not talk about that is actually going to come out not in this week's Traveling Soldier, but maybe next week's Traveling Soldier. So for the Fort Cavazos Sentinel, I am actually going to be attending the City of Killeen's night market, which I'm very excited about.
I can't wait to hear about
yes.
this.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about the night market? I heard that the first night was a raging success.
It was. So the night market, we're going to have it every Friday. And it will be through September with 22nd has passed, but to November 3rd, and it's 6 to 9 p.m. And it's in our historical downtown Killeen area, which is 305 North 4th Street. And vendors, if you want to be a vendor, because we had a lot out there, it's just like a big festival, and I loved it. It's that you can sign up at www.killeentexas.com, and that's Charlie, Oscar, Mike.
Look at you.
Rec, Romeo, Echo, Charlie. So you can sign up at www.killeentexas.com/rec. And that's our farmers market and our downtown historical Killeen. So be there this Friday.
Yeah, absolutely.
At 6 o'clock.
Yeah. I'm excited. There's entertainment and vendors and food.
Oh,
yes, I heard.
Okay, you
lots
had
of
me at
trucks
food
now.
I might have to come out and just check it out.
I'm serious.
I'm
you
excited.
will have so much fun.
Oh, nice. All right. Something to look forward to.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Well,
All right.
Again, thank you so much for being here. We really, really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you both for having me.
Sullivan doesn't look too happy at the bar. That staff sergeant from 2nd Brigade has his hands all over her.
I keep my nose out of other people's business.
Yeah, I don't know. He outranks me.
Screw it. None of that matters.
Being a passive bystander in the U.S. Army is never an option.
Excuse me, Sergeant. I'm her ride home, and we gotta go.
Intervene, act, and motivate others to do the same.
Okay, so honestly, I think that this week's episode is just, we talk about this same subject every October, naturally, because it's, National Domestic Violence Awareness Month. But I think it's such a powerful conversation, a powerful reminder for people that just talking about it in October is just not nearly enough.
I agree. I think that unknowingly, probably all of us probably know at least one person who's going through it, and we don't know because there's such a stigma, negative stigma about speaking up. And then, it's just a very frightening thing.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm thrilled that we were able to have this week's episode. I'm looking forward to more conversations about it as well.
Absolutely.
And continuing on with it. So yeah. And I was glad that we were able to kind of learn all the information, statistics, and just kind of things to do and things to look out for.
Absolutely.
So
and I'm glad
great.
Viewers know that there are resources and there is help.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, we got to change subjects a little bit.
Just a little.
So we're talking about resources available. And of course, that's what we have here on the installation. Tons and tons of resources and tons of events and things to know. So break it down for us. What do we got going on here on the installation this week?
Well, October, of course, is going to be a busy and a festive month.
Always, yeah.
Coming off of summer and going into fall, we're still, in the water conservation arena. But thanks to the effort of the community and family housing residents, there's been a reduction in water consumption. So kudos for that.
Yeah,
it is much appreciated by the DPW or Directorate of Public Works. However, Belton Lake continues to remain at 58% capacity. So
yes,
we need to continue. It's still important for everyone to continue. Mandatory stage 2 water conservation measures remain in place until further notice. No watering of all types of landscaping between the hours of 10 a.m. and 8 p.m. daily. And please remember to report all on-post links to DPW by calling 254-287-2113. Again, that number is 254-287-2113. And please report all off-post links to the local water departments.
Yeah, absolutely. Important stuff.
Absolutely. Also, so there is a historic vehicle rally. For those of you who are history buffs and you like old military vehicles, this is for you. We will have a static display of World War II, Korean War, and Vietnam era military vehicles that will occur tomorrow from 9:30 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. at the main post exchange. All soldiers and family members are welcome to attend. So we hope to see you guys there.
I love that. I know you guys talked a little bit about that last week for cameras and stuff that Eric was looking for.
Yes,
so.
he's on the hunt. So, just a reminder, all you listeners out there, if you have cameras for Eric, he's would be much obliged, and he's looking. So be ready to bargain.
I love that. All right, what else we got?
So right now is the time to apply for a Santa's Workshop.
Yes.
So applications to receive toys from Santa's Workshop at the Great Place are available until October 15th. If your application is selected, children 6 months to 12 years old will receive a book, a stocking stuffer, a family game, and 2 toys.
Ooh, I love that.
Yes. So applications and more information can be found at the website www.forthoodsantasworkshop.com.
Perfect. I love that. I love Santa's Workshop. They're
Me
the best.
too. I know. It's always great to see something up under the tree, even if it's a little something. I loved it. I loved Christmas. I still love it.
Me too.
My sons are growing, and I still get a little giddy putting things up under the tree for them to open.
Yeah.
So, yeah. We also have a retiree appreciation day. That sounds pretty good. Yes. It's actually the 48th annual Retiree Appreciation Day that will take place October 28th. The opening ceremony will take place at 9 a.m. at Carl R. Darnell Army Medical Center. Attendees will have the opportunity to participate in a variety of activities, including a golf tournament at the courses of Clear Creek on October 27th, draft wills, advanced medical directives, all kind of good stuff going on.
Yes. We can do all of that. I think at the 3rd Armored Corps Legal Assistance Office, correct?
I believe so. Yes, that is 3rd Armored Corps Legal Assistance Office from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. October 28th, and a health fair at Credamcy from 9:30 to 1 p.m. on the 28th.
Great. Yeah, I know we always have people messaging us on Facebook asking when is the Retiree Appreciation Day, because they just do so much that day. Everybody comes in, gets to enjoy lunch at a dining facility and, take care of any legal things, maybe visit the ID card people.
It's a good day to get some stuff taken care of.
It is, yes. And if this is your one day of like, I got to do all those, those little things that you just always have on your to-do list, it's a good day just to knock them all out.
Absolutely. And also, we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about Halloween.
I know. It's wild that we are in October and that Halloween is coming up so fast.
Absolutely. All right. So if you haven't already, mark your calendars for trick-or-treating.
Yes.
Okay. The post-wide trick-or-treating is from 6 to 8 p.m. on October 31st. Children under 12 years old are asked to cross streets with an adult.
Of course.
We must, make sure the kids are taken care of.
Safety first.
And of course, drivers are asked to slow down and remain alert during that time, because it's going to be all kind of, kiddos in the streets in their little costumes, and we want to be careful. Make sure they have a good, safe time.
They're going to be so cute.
They are. They are. I can't wait to see, because we get so creative. People get really creative with their children's costumes.
Yes, they do. My mom, when I was younger, made me a cat costume. I loved that thing. And she also, of course, made like the little ghost with the sheet.
Oh, your mom sounds like she was creative.
Well, I mean, the sheet is pretty easy. No offense, Mom. Come on. Get it together.
Well, my very favorite costume, and I swear to God, I tried to wear it till I couldn't fit anymore. My mom ordered it, but it was the best. It was a whole satin red leotard with a devil's fork and with the devil's ears and a tail. And when I tell you, that was the fanciest costume I ever had, and I tried to wear it every year until I could not fit it anymore.
That is so cute.
And I had my little little fishnet stockings
of course, yeah.
and my patent leather dance shoes.
Yeah.
Yes. You couldn't tell me anything. Yeah.
I
was
love
it.
that.
That was it for me.
That's amazing. Well, I know I'm looking forward to seeing all the kids in their costumes.
Absolutely.
I mean, we'll have to maybe do some who had the best costume.
Yeah, and not to mention all the other fall festivities, pumpkin patches and Halloween parties.
Yeah.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah, we got
fall
a lot
is here.
A lot coming up on the installation as well,
Yes.
related to fall activities. So I'm excited for everything, and I can't wait to tell everybody.
Can't wait.
All right. Well, I think that's all we have for this week's episode. So thanks everybody for listening, and we will talk to you next week.
See you then. Bye.
This podcast is a U.S. Army Garrison Fort Cavazos and Fort Cavazos Public Affairs production. Have a question or want to share some of your wisdom with us? Drop us an email at fortcavazos@gmail.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Fort Cavazos Army. And as always, be sure to leave us a review and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.